Self-Awareness Wednesday. Self-Awareness Wednesday. Self-Awareness Wednesday. That's what it is. And we got a really interesting topic for today because, Self-Awareness Wednesday, this is the day that we get that work in. We talk about fear. We talk about fear. We talk about a gentle approach to shadow work and how to expand in self-awareness, how to improve our self-awareness, expand in self-love. And it's where we get the work in. We start off the week with Monday meditation. Good morning. We roll into Talk That Talk Tuesday. We talk about our language, talk about how to improve the way that we're not only talking to ourselves, but how we're using our voice to manifest the life that we desire. And then on Wednesday, it's Self-Awareness Wednesday. It's time to dig even deeper. It's time to analyze ourselves. It's time to assess, how we are responding to fear, how we are responding to ourselves in the state of fear. And so it's really, really, really important work that we do on Wednesday. So let's go ahead and get to it. Today we're going to be talking about fear of boundaries. Fear of boundaries. And I'm just trying to get myself together. But yeah, so this morning we're going to be talking about fear of boundaries. Fear of boundaries. I have a few topics that we're going to discuss. Topic points that we're going to discuss. And we're just going to get to the root of it. We're going to get to the root of it. Like, seriously. I'm the type that, honestly, I know that we have a commitment to taking a gentle approach to shadow work. But I think that it's safe to say that when we come up here for self-awareness Wednesday, we get straight to it. We get straight to it. In a gentle way, though, right? So today we're talking about the fear of boundaries. The first topic, the first point that I want to bring up is, and let me just say this, we ask a lot of questions on Self-Awareness Wednesday. So we bring up at least 1 to 3 questions that are going to help us in digging deeper into finding what our truth is, into improving our self-awareness, and to really learning how to respond to ourselves and notice ourselves in the state of fear. And so we talk about the fear of boundaries. One of the first questions that I want to bring to your awareness is, why are we fearful of not being accepted and loved? Another question, why are we fearful of rejection and adversity? Because the different types of habits that you're going to notice with someone who is fearful of boundaries is going to be people pleasing, avoidant behavior, so this is somebody who's going to avoid conflict, avoid any type of adversity of any kind, any possibility of rejection. So people pleasing may be the way that they avoid it, or just, introvert behavior. Not saying that introverts are people pleasers. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this person is just going to be the type that's just going to let things slide a lot. Let people walk over them, use them. They're not going to self-advocate. And the reason that I know this, and the reason that I know this well, is because this is something that I've had experience with in my life. And so when we talk about the fear of boundaries, we're talking about it from a point of Um, when I talk about it, I know that I'm talking about it from experience, and then also just knowing, like, I know the benefits, right? So this is why there's so much, passion and really trying to get to the root cause of it, because and really start to improve that awareness, because on the other side of being able to set and enforce boundaries, there's a life that is waiting for you that is just phenomenal. It's amazing, and it's everything that you would ever hope to have, and from someone who knows how to self advocate and use boundaries. And so when we talk about the fear of boundaries, we have to address these questions of, what are we fearful of when it comes to rejection? What are we fearful of when it comes to not being loved and not being accepted? Where is that coming from? Why is it that that's something that is motivating and driving us to allow people to treat us any type of way, to feel like if we don't, then we won't have anyone, we'll be all alone in this world. And so the fear of boundaries is something that could really keep you from being in a life, from existing in a life that is yours, that is well, that is free. All right. And so one of the things that I had learned about myself when it came to people pleasing is that it wasn't just that I had this fear of not being accepted and not being loved, but it was also the way that I avoided conflict. And so even if the idea that someone was not going to love me or accept me for who I am, which was a huge part of it, but even when that didn't play a huge role, it would be like for instance, when I'm at work and I let harassment slide. That was my version of keeping the peace and not, self advocating, because I just avoided conflict in that way. I avoided confrontation in that way. I avoided having that type of attention to myself. And so when we start to ask ourselves these questions, it becomes this conversation with self of, okay, why am I avoiding this? Why is there this fear present of me not being accepted and loved, this fear of being rejected, and this fear of adversity? Why is that present? And it helps us to really learn how to areas in which we can build our own confidence and our own belief in the knowing of ourselves. So the way that we continue to dig deeper and analyze this situation is by keeping it real, right? So when at Center Me, keeping it real is reflecting, expressing, accepting, and letting go. And so when we are um, exploring ourselves, because you know what, I said analyze earlier, and I really kind of didn't like that, because I don't want to feel like I'm picking myself apart. It's more so an exploration of self. I'm just glad that I went back to that, because immediately did not sit right when I said analyze. So this Egyptian licorice is like my favorite tea ever. Yeah. So when we are keeping it real when it comes to having this fear of setting and enforcing boundaries, one of the things that you want to do is talk about or analyze the fear from a perspective of just keeping it real with yourself, right? So during the reflection process, you're going to ask these types of questions. What am I fearful of when it comes to not being loved, not being accepted? What am I fearful of when it comes to being rejected and facing adversity? What is that? Where is that coming from? And this could be something that is stemming from a trauma that has been experienced. This could be something that is experienced from environment in childhood. It could be from uh, something that has happened in adulthood as well. And so if you have learned how to survive toxic relationships, abusive relationships, excuse me, and you struggle with setting and enforcing boundaries, you have a fear of boundaries, then this may be why, because you're in survivor mode. And survivor mode is going to position us to do whatever it takes to not address the fear, right? To just live with it, cope with it, and not address it. And so, because of that, and then also another thing when it comes to survivor mode is that when we are experiencing emotions, when we are experiencing intense, uncomfortable, and difficult emotions, we're restricted to one particular perspective. Whether that be a perspective that is based out of fear, sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, um, yeah, these are this is going to keep you from being able to see the bigger picture here. This is going to keep you from being able to see that if you do not set and enforce those boundaries, that your life is not going to change. This is going to keep you from being able to see the version of yourself who is healthy, secure, confident because she adopted boundaries. She started to set and maintain and enforce those boundaries. And so when we are in survivor mode, keep in mind too that that's going to be another hurdle that's going to keep you from being able to stand 10 toes down on your boundaries. And so when we are keeping it real, the reflection piece is really, really important because we have to be very open and honest with ourselves. Like, am I in survivor mode? Am I worried about my survival over the next week, over the next day, over the next month, over the next quarter? Like, is there something that's making me feel like I'm having to survive versus thrive? Because that's going to be another hurdle in setting, enforcing, and maintaining boundaries. And so asking yourself those purpose questions, what am I fearful of when it comes to rejection and adversity? Where is that coming from? Why, what are all of the emotions that are stimulated when I'm met with opportunities to enforce my boundaries, to set boundaries? What are those emotions, and what do they, how do they show up in the body? Spending time with yourself and just having this time of self exploration is going to reveal to you how your body is even responding to these opportunities to set and enforce boundaries. And when I say opportunities to set and enforce boundaries, I mean, when those boundaries, boundaries have been crossed, right? Because at the end of the day, boundaries just don't pop up out of nowhere. They've always been there. We have to set them, meaning like we have to realize them. So bring them to the light, make them a real situation, a real thing, a real element of your life and your environment. We have to enforce them, meaning we have to abide by them, and we have to make sure that the people that are in our environment are abiding by them as well. Now, granted, this is something that is tricky because, and we're going into a whole nother conversation real briefly. Because when it comes to boundaries, they can easily be confused with conditions. And conditions are our attempt to try to control other people in our environment. And that's not cute, right? And that's not in alignment with self-love, abundance, highest good, none of that. Right? So when you're trying to control somebody else, that's like the impossible task. And it's draining, and it's of the ego, and it's just restrictive, and it's just like, no. No. So boundaries, the difference between boundaries and conditions is that boundaries are more so how you behave in your environment and how it is the acceptable and expected behavior, not only of yourself, but the way that you navigate your environment, right? And And so if there is someone who is crossing a boundary, who is not adhering to a boundary in your life, it's not your job to make them understand. It's your job to either remove yourself from the situation or remove them from the situation, right? And so you have to do whatever it takes to maintain a healthy self-love environment for yourself. And these boundaries are going to help, and they're going to act as this filtration process, right? So the people that respect and adhere to these boundaries are the people that are going to be able to navigate your environment, with ease, right? And free. They're going to have that space for you. But the people who don't, people who are disrespectful, people who are crossing boundaries, people who are just, attempting to walk over you and misuse you, these are the people that you are able to see by way of their inability to respect your boundaries. And so then because of that, you can do whatever it needs to be done to, again, remove yourself from the situation or remove them from your environment. And that's just that. I mean, granted, yeah, you can reiterate the boundary and have that conversation, and however many times it takes for you, to however patient you are with this person to have them maintain and to respect those boundaries is on you. But there comes a point where if they're not getting it, they're not, respecting who you are and the space that is required to be you, because our boundaries is a part of the space that we take up. All right. So if they don't have the space for you, then we have to make the executive decision, right? So to exit the situation or have them exit our environment. Either way, something has to change so that we are staying in alignment with our boundaries, because our boundaries are birthed from our birthright. We build our boundaries up by using our birthright as the foundation of them. And so there is no crossing boundaries. There is no excuse for not adhering to and respecting someone's boundaries, because this is in the direct adherence to their birthright, right? And so, and these are like, again, you realize these boundaries. They're just boundaries like disrespect and not being respectful of someone's presence, not having the capacity for the space that someone requires, not being open to this person having the ability to know, this person's self-awareness, having their own ability to know whether or not they have the capacity for something or not. Like, these are things that I feel like are directly, like, I'm struggling because I don't know any circumstance where boundaries should not be adhered to, or I'm struggling, y'all, because I'd like to be able to offer a scenario where maybe there's some kind of misunderstanding of what could be considered a boundary. But when it comes to boundaries, again, they're built on our birthrights. They're built on our birthright of wellness. They're built on our birthright of freedom. They're built on our birthright of respect. They're built on our birthright of worthiness. And so when that is questioned, you get what I'm saying? Like, when that is questioned, I don't know, man. that's just it's like of course there needs to be a conversation at this point. We have to definitely talk about this, and when we talk about this, it needs to be the very last time that we talk about it. Like, and so that's me. So we talked about the difference between boundaries and conditions. We talked about how to keep it real, from a reflection standpoint, asking ourselves those really, tough questions about the fear and addressing that fear of when it comes to being able to set, enforce, and maintain our boundaries. And we talked about what type of questions we should be asking ourselves, these purpose questions, because, these prevention questions such as, well, why did they feel like it was okay to do that? And why did they feel like it was okay to say that? And I don't understand why they want me to do this, and why aren't they considering me, and why aren't they? That's not their job to consider you. You have to lead by example. So you set the standard by the relationship that you have with yourself. So you maintain boundaries within yourself. I like to call these internal boundaries. And it's easier to enforce external boundaries, the boundaries that we have to maintain in our external environment to align with a behavior that is accepted and expected. And so these prevention questions are not going to help you in identifying why you are experiencing fear in setting, enforcing, and maintaining boundaries. And so we have to stay with these purpose questions. We have to stay in alignment with these purpose questions. What are we avoidant? Are we, just, and why is that? Are we avoidant of rejection, of adversity? Are we afraid of not being loved? Are we afraid of being alone? Are we afraid of not being accepted? And if so, what are we doing? And this is what's we're going into the next topic. What are we doing to advocate for ourselves, in that we are building our confidence, in that we are deepening the knowing of who we are? This is why self-awareness is so important. Because when we start identifying fear in our lives, when we start identifying our behavior when we're in the state of fear, when we start identifying and improving the way that we respond to ourselves in the state of fear, then we are empowered to make some incredible changes in our lives. And boundaries is just how you achieve, this is how you upgrade your self-love environment, your relationships, your routine, your hobbies, your career, your living space, your environment is now upgraded because now you have this filtration system, these boundaries that are going to help empower you to make the decisions that are necessary for you to thrive. For you to thrive. You shouldn't have to be trying to teach someone over and over again how to treat you, how to exist in your space. Your external environment is a reflection of your internal space. If your internal space is of love and of peace, then that's what your external environment should be of, love and peace. And so, what are we doing to advocate for ourselves, and that we are improving and strengthening our ability to face the fear that comes with setting, enforcing, and maintaining boundaries? And so, what does this look like internally for you? What does this look like internally for you? We have to be, aware of ourselves enough to know, like, if we're struggling to maintain boundaries with other people in our external environment, then we're struggling to maintain boundaries internally as well. That's how this thing works, right? So this is a hack too, because we're able to we are able to observe our external environment. We're able to observe our relationships, our career, our lack of or absence of hobbies, our routine, our living space. We're able to observe this environment, and we're able to make the we're able to improve our awareness of ourselves so that we can start asking the right questions of what's not going on internally, right? Because these are directly related and correlated, with each other, the external and internal environment. And so, in our internal environment, what are those type of boundaries look like? Are you hard on yourself? Are you bullying yourself? Are you experiencing negative self-talk? Do you trust yourself? And these are some questions that you really want to sit on. You really want to explore. You really want to be intentional and open and honest with yourself about, because these are the type of questions that are going to help you getting even more closer to the root of this fear of boundaries. Because if we're not regulating ourselves on a high level internally, then that's going to be near impossible to do externally. All right? And so what do I mean by, do you trust yourself? Are you experiencing negative self-talk? All of these things. This is what happens when there's an absence of boundaries internally. Like I have to be able to let my mind know this is unacceptable. I have to be able to do that, because my mind is not who I am. I am the greater awareness of my mind. And so if I'm experiencing negative thoughts all of the time, if I'm experiencing thoughts, abusive and toxic thoughts, if I'm allowing this type of environment to take place internally, and I can't have peace, I can't have love that has a space enough to permeate all throughout me. I can't have my mind serve the rest of my body if the contents of it is not regulated. Are you going to have negative thoughts? Absolutely. But you can control whether or not you're entertaining them. You can control whether or not you're putting any belief in them. You can control whether or not they actually have any weight. If they're actually true or not, you give them life. You take that energy that comes with those thoughts and you amplify it or not. And so when it comes to boundaries, it's a matter of leading by example. It's about making sure that you are building up this awareness so that you can, again, align yourself with your highest good, regulate yourself on a high level. So if you are experiencing these negative thoughts, or these bullying thoughts, these being hard on yourself, if your response to yourself is being hard on yourself, then you may want to start exploring yourself a little bit deeper to see, like, is there trust in your life? Is there trust within you? Do you trust yourself? This was a huge thing for me about a month or so ago, when I thought for sure, like, no, yeah, I trust myself. Oh yeah, I trust me. But there's levels to it, sis. There are levels to it. And so whenever we have this fear of boundaries, then this is going to reveal this lack of trust that we have for ourselves. You have to be able to trust you with you. And if you don't trust you with you, then you are not going to be able to set, enforce, and maintain boundaries. It's as simple as that. And so we worked our way all the way down to what could be the root of this situation. This could be a trust issue. It could be a trauma response. It could be just a lack of being able to use that muscle. Maybe we should just start using that muscle, that boundary muscle, so that we can, and with ourselves first, right? So that is not entertaining negative thoughts. That is not being hard and bullying ourselves. That is being able to respond to ourselves with love. Being able to invite and allow permanent residency of peace within us. This is learning how to keep it real, how to express ourselves in a healthy way, how to accept ourselves so that we're not looking for other people to accept us, to accept our emotions, to accept what it is that we're feeling, to accept that, hey, yeah, these are some negative thoughts, but I'm the greater awareness. I'm the divine being. And so this is what ultimately gets us to the point where we can let go. Right? We can let go of the version of ourselves that, is not setting and enforcing these boundaries. We can let go of the survival behavior, because you're not here surviving. Surviving is something that happens when you're met with immediate danger or a threat. We're here to thrive. And because of this, and because you are, doing the work to improve your self-awareness, being honest and open with yourself, your perspectives are going to expand. You're going to start to see so many different ways to be the healthy, well, and free version of you. So many creative ways to align with that, to align with that life that she brings. And so that is what I wanted to share with you all this morning. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you because boundaries is just, it's a game changer. It's a game changer. And I want to see that for everyone. I want to see that for everyone because that's a reflection of the way that you love yourself. It's a reflection of the way that you see yourself, respond to yourself, and take divine care of yourself. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna face that fear of setting, enforcing, and maintaining boundaries. We're gonna face that fear. We're gonna ask the purpose questions. We're going to express ourselves in a healthy way, whether it be journaling, whether it be talking it out with your coach or therapist, whether it be painting, drawing, yoga. We're gonna face it. We're gonna express it. We're going to accept who we are. We're going to accept all that we are, all versions of ourselves. We're going to accept all of ourselves so that we are not fearful of acceptance not coming from someone else or somewhere else or from something else. We're self-validating ourselves. And this is what's going to help you in strengthening your boundary setting muscle. This is what's going to help you face that fear of boundaries. This is what's going to help to open up an entire new world, an entire new life for you. But you got to start with yourself. You got to maintain those boundaries, set those boundaries within. And I can promise you, setting, enforcing, and maintaining boundaries externally are going to be so easy for you because you've gotten a taste of what it feels like to have that inner peace. You've gotten a taste of what it is, what that experience of yourself is. that love, that experience of love. Real, unconditional love. When you experience that, your tolerance for anything less than that decreases. And so your boundaries, and that's why I was struggling earlier, because I'm just like, I don't even know this life of not having boundaries anymore. And I remember a time in my life when they were not present. But the details are kind of fuzzy. I mean, I'm a world away from where I was before. And I see that for myself a year from now, a quarter from now, a month from now. I want to be worlds and worlds and worlds away from myself from yesterday and last year. I want to continue to expand in this way. I want to continue to evolve in this way, because that's what love is supposed to do. And so I want that for you. And if you want more practice in improving your self-awareness, definitely come to our Keep It Real coaching, group coaching, and journaling sessions. We do them every Friday at 7 p.m. Go to centerme.com and learn more about how our members get to experience greater daily fulfillment and enhance the quality of their lives. It's not something that you deserve. It's what you are worthy of. All right. Wellness is your birthright, and self-love is where you're going to find true freedom. All right. We focus on emotional wellness at Center Me because at the very root of it, when we learn how to respond to ourselves, it makes it so much more easier to navigate this life around us. It makes it so much more easier to be solution oriented, to be in alignment with self-preservation, navigating stress, seeing opportunities for expansion, being strategic in how we show up for ourselves, for the way that we show up in our organizations, the way we show up in our household, the way we show up in our communities. It starts with being emotionally well. That is where it starts. And that can take what you're already building and what you're already doing for yourself in your life, and it can amplify it to infinity. Because again, when you learn how to respond to yourself, your emotions, the feelings, your experiences, your situations, your circumstances, people, your roles, the way that you express yourself, all of these things are directly impacted in such a beautiful and positive way because of it. And so definitely visit centerme.com. We have so much available for you to thrive in this life. We are helping women professionals and entrepreneurs to cultivate authenticity, self-compassion, and transformative growth by providing immersive self-love support. This is how you access optimal emotional wellness. This is how you access stress relief. Visit centerme.com. I'm sending you so much love, so much peace, and so much light, sis. Have a wonderful day on purpose.